5 knives for life. Today I'd like to share with you my opinion on this topic. It is pretty common in the community. So I'll give you my 5 category and then we're going to see together which are my choice and why. First category, pocket knives. I didn't put here a Letterman multi-tool because for me it's something different. It's not primary a knife. It's primary plier, it's primary screwdriver, etc. So here you can see some of my pocket knives, and those I consider for a while my best one. At the end, my choice is the large Sebenza. The reason is just one. Oh, it's pretty dirty now because I use every day. Anyway, the reason is because it's very strong construction. It's impossible to move. When it's locked down, it's very solid. It's very capable. I use a lot this knife, and is still appear pretty new, even if it's dirty, even if it's not so new in reality. I prefer the large Sebenza on the small Sebenza because it's more capable. I can do a lot more with this knife in compared to this knife. So if I have to choose one, I'm going to choose the large Sebenza. Another option at the beginning was the Buck 110, especially this version in MagnaCut, but the problem with this knife is the carryability. To carry this knife, I need a belt sheet, and if I have to bring with me a knife in a belt sheet, at that point I prefer to have a fixed blade. Other option was the Swiss Army knife, that is many times my first option, but again, if I have to have one, I prefer to have the large Sebenza. Slip joint option can be good in country where make a difference to have a locking knife over a non-locking knife, and this one that came from Tuscany in Italy is pretty good. For a while I tried to make this Benchmade small crooked river my one knife, but at the end I really don't like the axis lock, and in general the feeling of the knife doesn't give me the confidence that the large Sebenza give me. So large Sebenza as first of the 5 knives for life. Food prep. I decided to give a chance to this category, but watching from another perspective. I'm not gonna put a specific Santoku knife or another European style food prep knife. I prefer to have a knife that, even if not designed primarily to prepare food, I can use very, very easily and effectively to prepare food. I'm from Italy. Cooking is part of my culture, and I cook every day, more than one time per day, and at home, when I'm around, when I'm abroad, when I'm in the field, when I'm in the wood, etc. So it's important to prepare food for me, but I prefer to have something that is a little bit more versatile, that just in case, I can use for something else, and then it's good enough to prepare food. For this reason, my choice is going to follow between these 3 knives. If I choose something really small to carry but very capable, is the Buck 110, especially this in MagnaCut, because it can touch any kind of food, and is not going to be ruined or rusted or develop patina, even if you cut a lemon or a tomato. Another option was, in my opinion, this Malanica Pucco. Is in MagnaCut, so again a very rust resistant steel, and the good point, if I compare this knife to a folding knife, is how much is easy to clean and to make hygienic this knife. The other competitor is the Bark River Gunny Sidekick in MagnaCut again. As you see, for food prep, for cooking, to cut something that can be very acid, I prefer something that is very slicey. All three of these knives are very slicey and are in the most rust resistant, or one of the most rust resistant knife steel on the market right now. At the end, my choice is going to follow on this Bark River Gunny Sidekick in MagnaCut. Why? First of all, because I really like, and I have to admit that the aesthetic in this rank of 5 knife is very important. The second point is because the geometry of the blade, the length of the blade, the thickness of the blade, etc., the overall design, and the position of the edge compared to the position of your hand, it makes very easy to cut something over something that is like a cutting board. So this knife performs very well in the kitchen, even if it's a knife that is not designed for the kitchen. For sure, is a wood handle, and probably exists better handle for food prep or for hunting, etc. But for me, it's good enough. I oil my handles pretty regularly, and the desert iron wood, as the same, this ebony wood, are pretty resistant to the humidity and to the water. So my choice for the food prep knife, again, not really dedicated design for food prep, but something that can solve the problem very easily and is still capable to do other tasks like bushcraft task, survival task, etc., is this Bark River Gunny Sidekick in MagnaCut. By the way, this knife is the only Bark River that I received that from the factory was perfect. There was a perfect edge, very sharp, perfect geometry, not problem with the handle. Was just a perfect knife, and this is the first time over years that I receive a perfect Bark River knife, and probably is part of the love that I have for this knife specifically. The Malanica is perfect for sure. The problem and is very capable knife, especially for carving, but is very dedicated knife. It can do very good food prep, but the geometry is not perfect on a cutting board. And it's a very good option for sure. It's a great knife, it's a beautiful knife, but at the end I prefer the Sidekick. So second knife of the 5 is the Bark River Gunny Sidekick in MagnaCut. By the way, we have already 2 knives here that are both in MagnaCut. Another good point is that at the end these 2 knives can act pretty similar. I know this one is convex, this one is hollow, the one is folding, one is fixed blade, but at the end of the day these 2 knives can be kind of a sub one for each other. It's good to have something that can back up another knife in the real life for me. Now, the more crowded category, the bushcraft / survival knife. I'm going to make probably another video to clarify why for me bushcraft and survival are going together 90% of the time. Anyway, just make a long story short, for me survival is just about skills. It's not about the tools you have. For sure there are tools that is going to help you, but when you are struggling to survive, it's really crucial to have the right skill and the right mental approach more than the specific knife. If in a survival situation you have a knife compared to another, except you have a piece of crap, as soon as you have a decent knife, you are going to the difference between the knives are not going to make a significant difference. Anyway, this is my opinion. You can write in the comment if you agree or not, but it's my opinion based on my experience in the field in the last 10-11 years now. Now, why which one I'm going to choose? Let's show the different knives for sure. Let's start from something that I already show, the Malanica Pucco. The Malanica Pucco is something that is very dedicated to bushcraft, especially if for bushcraft you intend something relate more to carving than to building something big. And this knife, it's very good if you have with you another heavy cutting tool, like if you have a saw, or better if you have a saw and an axe, you can take this knife and be pretty happy with it, probably very happy with it. Anyway, for me there is something more versatile than this around, at least in my collection, that is not so huge but is significant for me. Another option for me has been this Falkniven F1 in Elmax. Now, as you see, I made a custom handle. I have a video and I customized this. This one has been my main knife for a while. The problem I have with this is that the thickness, the ratio between the thickness and the length of the blade is not so ideal. If this blade was, let's say, an inch long, it could have been my favorite knife at all. The Elmax steel is great, the grind is perfect and great. Another point that I really don't like so much is the shape of the point. For a so small knife, there is too belly compared to how acute is the tip. The tip is not acute enough to make very small and precise work, even if the grind and the steel could permit this. So for me is a great knife, but at the end I didn't like so much. Again, probably I'm going to be happy with any of these knives if I have to, but just for the sake of this video I'm going to make very demanding. I'm going to be very demanding on this topic. So another knife that is very good for me is the Reef S5 Glide in CPM 3V. This knife is great. It's performed very well. The handle is probably the most comfortable handle that I ever had straight from the factory. It came very sharp, but I don't know, the grind was weird, and I sharp it, I don't know, 5 times before. At that point I had a very stable and strong edge that keep the edge a long time and is still very sharp. Again, it's a great knife. It came with a beautiful sheath, but probably is not gonna be my choice. Can be, but is not. My first serious knife was the Bark River Bushcrafter in CPM 3V. Now, this one is pretty old. Probably is not the first run because it's not written there. But the time I bought was around, I don't know, a long time ago. So I used to love this knife, and the handle is again very comfortable. Is everything good? After a while I didn't like so much the geometry of the blade. When it arrives, the grind was too stiff and was not a good slicer. Then I modify, I regrind basically, and it became sharp and more slicey, but not slicey enough. Again, similar to the F1X Pro or whatever of Falkniven, the ratio between the length of the blade and the thickness and the geometry of the edge, I don't know, was not ideal for me. Was kind of weird. It's a very good batoner, but with this so short length of the blade, for me was not the best choice. For this reason, I bought the the Bark River Bushcrafter 2 that is slightly longer. And if you notice, the grind is higher, so with the same stock and higher grind, you're going to have a more slicey knife. And also, because the length, this knife is very good for batoning and also to make general bushcraft task and survival task. I think this one can be one candidate to be one of the 5 knives for life. Other knives, the Joker Montagnero. I deeply modified this knife because when I arrived was not alive in my hand. I didn't like. I modified the belly. Now is more acute the point. Before was almost as, I don't know, a round tanto. Was very weird. And then I made, I don't know if you can see it, I don't know how to call it, probably Scandivex. Yes, Scandivex. I really like the steel and the treatment of the steel of this knife because it's Sandvik 14C28N, and it's very rust resistant and keep the edge pretty well, and you can make a very fine edge. The handle is very comfortable, but to be honest, I have better pieces in my collection. Anyway, now that I modify, I like this one. Is probably my favorite kayak knife because it's stainless steel. It sits pretty high in the belt, and I don't know, when I'm going kayaking, especially with my family, is one of the knives that I bring with me probably, and is at the end is the one that I use more. The Bushcrafter, the Euro Bushcrafter in Magnacat. When I bought this knife recently, is the first production run, Burlap Grimmy Carta, the handle, I loved the grind and the blade thickness, but I hate this, and I still hate this gimmick stuff over here. Don't make any sense. This stuff, it doesn't scrape the fire steel better than this part. The jimping is not comfortable for me, especially combined with the thickness of the blade that is just 3mm or something like that and not 4mm. So I don't know. The handle is great as usual as Bark River, but I don't know, there is something that didn't let me fall in love with this knife. It's okay, it's a good knife, very good steel, treat very well, you keep the edge long, but there is something that I don't know, doesn't convince me completely. If I compare to the other one, the Bark River Bushcrafter 2, at the end I prefer this one. I don't know, it's a more capable knife for me. Then the 2 of my favorite knife of all time, the Lars Falt knife from Castrom and the new Lars Falt knife from Castrom, the so-called Jarv series. Now, slipper steel and 15N20 steel, tool steel and carbon steel. I'm going to say something that probably many of you is gonna say, oh, it's impossible, you cannot compare, so different steel, etc. But for me, this simple steel, very old, I think it was used to make blade saw in industrial sawery. Anyway, this steel, it's act for me very close and perform very close to the Bark River CPM3V. Now, I know it's probably doesn't make sense on the paper, but in my practical experience, I don't see so much difference because they keep the edge pretty similar, probably a little bit better the CPM3V, but a little bit, not significantly, especially with the heat treatment that the Castrom perform on this blade. The edge is very stable both, and is very tough. The Lars Falt, the original Lars Falt, it's a little more tough, probably because the thickness of the blade and in the hand feels a little bit more heavy. But this new knife is kind of the perfect balance for me. The texture on the blade is there, but is almost not, so you're not gonna have any hot spot. The ratio between the blade size and the handle is perfect for my hand. It's very balanced. It's I don't know, for me it's probably the best knife, and this knife costs in Europe less than the half of this knife. Probably you're going to get this knife in Europe, you are going to pay 3 times this knife, and for me doesn't make 3 times of difference. And for many things this knife is better. When I'm in the wood, usually I prefer or a Scandi knife or a convex or high convex, something like that. In the last 3 or 5 years I discovered that to have a Scandi, having a Scandi grind make everything easier in general, from sharpening to cutting food, to cutting wood, to make feather stick, to split wood. It's a very logical and practical approach. I really like Castrom because they do make really nothing that is not driven by a specific practical purpose, in my opinion. For sure, Bark River is a great company, they make great knives, but in Europe at least, I don't know how much you're going to pay these 2 knives in United States, but in Europe this one really is the best knife you can buy for the money. And in my opinion, these 2 knives are 2 of the best knives that you can have for bushcrafting and also to survive. You are not going to break this blade because the toughness of the steel is very easy to sharp, and the edge that is come out is so crispy and so aggressive that you can easily do whatever you want to do. I know there is the theory of the 72 hours to survive, so it's better maybe to have a steel that keeps the edge for the entire 72 hours, but I don't know. In practical use, I really can strap it on my belt, and you're gonna have again the edge back. I don't know. For me, this one is the knife that I'm going to keep for the bushcraft / survival, whatever you want to call, tasks. The third knife in the category of bushcraft and survival, large falt from Castrom knife, the Jarv series in 15N20 steel. Notice that we have very high performance steel near a very basic carbon steel, but I really like this knife so much. Large knives. Now, how much big needs to be a knife to be a large size knife? For me, for example, the Riff F5, the brother of the Scandi version, the S5 glider, it's not big enough. It's a very capable knife. It's a middle-sized camp knife. It can do basically the job of almost everything we compared so far, but is not so big to fall in this category. Is not so good in wood carving and in feather sticking, etc., to be in the bushcraft category. Is not stained enough and is not slicey enough to be in the food preparation category. So I don't know exactly where to put, even if it's a great knife, and it's a paradox. But if you could choose just one knife, probably, and you choose this knife, probably you're not gonna make it wrong. It's gonna be a good choice anyway. Now, for the sake of the video, let's keep with the category, and so the big knife category. How much a big knife needs to be big? I don't know. For me, a big knife is basically something that can sub for an axe, or in specific environment can be better than an axe. Roughly 10 years ago, I was in the West Africa forest between Sierra Leone and Liberia, and I had with me a local machete plus other tools, but basically was the perfect. It was the best cutting tool I need for the job in that kind of environment. For sure, a machete in the Arctic forest, where you find mostly birch or other kind of big tree, not so much small vegetation, etc., you're not gonna need a machete. So, for what I have here, I have a mini Duku parang style knife from Condor. Let's see if I can put in there. Then I have the very well known junglas from EC, and then my modification of the Recon Scout from Cold Steel in CPM 3V. Now, if I must have just one of these three knives, I don't have any doubt that I'm going to choose the Recon Scout. First of all, for the style of knife, I want to have a Bowie knife. The Bowie knife is something that is, I know that this history is more connected to fighting than to work as a working tool, but for me it's a great working tool, as this knife can do a lot of things that a smaller knife can do. Not everything. For something is a little bit cumbersome to maneuver, but it's the more easy knife that I can do small knife tasks, and it's at the same time it can do 90% of the task that these other two big knife can do. If I didn't have the Recon Scout, probably my best option was the Mini Duku from Condor, this parang style, because it's very maneuverable, it's cheap, it's very tough, the convex grind, it's working very well. If you handle like this and you maneuver like this, it's gonna be very, very easy to make small jobs, etc. The EC is something that I don't like, to be honest. The grind is not my favorite, the secondary V-edge, the balance is not my favorite. So if I have to choose between these two, I choose the Cold Steel, and just as a second option, the Parang. So, 4th knife in my 5 knives list is the Cold Steel Recon Scout. My modification, because the original handle for me was very uncomfortable in the end and was looking pretty, ugly for me. So is the 4th knife. Now the last knife is a small fixed blade knife. Why? Because there are many situations where I want to have a fixed blade. I want to have the performance and the reliability of a fixed blade, but I don't need something big, or I don't want something big, something that can scare people or can be not easily concealed, etc. This knife is the only one that I have in this specific category, but for me is everything I need. When it came out, I don't know, pretty recent to be honest, was a very, very good surprise for me. It's made in Sandvik 14C 2810, is cryogenic treated as many custom knife. The handle is in birch. The blade length is just perfect for a small carving task, but is tough enough to do basically whatever you need. In this small package, you're going to have something that is very carryable, but very capable. Basically, it's my very portable survival kit, the minimum that I need to survive in let's say, wilderness or in a out of home, far from home. So for me, the fifth knife is the Castron number 8 in 14C28. Now, for sure, there are other options. For sure, there are better options of my choices, but this is my top 5. And I don't know. Please tell me what you think, and compare to what other guys on YouTube choose. And I don't know. I'm pretty curious to have your opinion on this. Thank you. Bye bye.